Welcome to Office Hours. Today we are talking all about the Star Awards, and I have Ginger Haggerty here with us today. Ginger is our Star Award coordinator, and she's going to give you a little bit more information about her. But let me introduce myself first. For those of you who might not know me, I'm Debbie Abbott. I'm the online community director and host of Office Hours. I'm also the VP of events. Many of us here wear multiple hats on the volunteer side of WFWA. So we have a super information-packed session today, and I'm really excited to get started. So Ginger, give us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So I am a couple things like Debbie. So I'm actually currently, as of this year, the VP of programs within WFWA. But last year, in my very first volunteer role, I was the STAR coordinator for 2024. So that is actually how I jumped in to volunteering at WFWA. And then from there, I popped into workshops for a minute, and then now I'm over programs. I'm actually excited to share here, and I know at least two folks are on, but we now have a new STAR committee. So we're going to talk a lot about deadlines. We're going to talk a lot about the general award today, but the three people that are now behind the award are three volunteers new to the STAR Award: Robin Blackburn, Susan Poole, and Ann Warner. And you can find them all at the email, which we'll make sure to share out following this webinar. Those three, the three committee members are hard at work getting kind of this year up and rolling, and so I'm excited to be passing the baton to them. Okay, and I was actually just going to kind of jump in about what is the STAR Award. Is that where you were going, Debbie?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and pop in about that, and then we'll bring our very guest we're so excited to have with us today.
Yeah, no, I'd love to get to bringing Lauren on. So just a couple of things. If you have been with WFWA for a little bit, you might have heard about the STAR Award. It's open to all authors of book-length women's fiction, so that's 60,000 words or more. And every year we have two categories. So we have a debut category and a general category. We take up to 100 entries. It's divided between 15 each. And the award for each winner is a $500 cash award and then a trophy. Now, I want to also just share that I'll go into the timeline in a minute, but there are 6 finalists that are picked from round 1, and then they from the first round judges, which we'll talk about judging in a little bit, and then they move forward to be, those 6 novels are then judged by a group of librarians who come in as our final round judges. And then we announce the winner of the Albuquerque retreat, which, if you have any questions about events, retreats, etc., Debbie's your person. But we will announce the winner there. But this year, which is something we did last year, but this year we're going to get it on everyone's calendars in advance. We'll be announcing those finalists on Women's Fiction Day, which is June 8th, which is coming up in the summer. I think it's a Sunday, so it's actually, I think, a pretty good day for at least to take a moment to see, which 6 novels kind of are finalists for the STAR Award. Now, one thing I just want to point out too, so this conversation is both for people who are interested in judging, and I think also for people who are considering submitting their novels. So one thing I do want to point out, which I think is a specific rule, which is useful, is this year, while it's the 2025 award, it's for novels published in 2024, and they have to have a copyright date in the calendar year of 2024. So I just wanted that to be clear. And everything I'm saying is also on the website. So we have an entire page with way more information than we'll cover today. So I recommend, and that'll be in the follow-up note as well. But that's some of the high-level lowdown, and I'm more than happy to get into more details as we get going.
I don't know if you want to answer Janet's question right now, but she just was asking if when submitting, the options are EPUB or 3 unredeemed Amazon books. So if they choose the ebooks, do we gift them to a WFWA address?
Yes, so we use a system called Reviewer. It's a pretty common system used for different contests, also scholarships, any type of like pool where people submit an application and then they go through a review process. You end up, if you are doing the EPUB route, or rather the Amazon gift card route, you just drop in links to those three gift cards. You're technically gifting them to the contest for then the judges to read, but you just drop the links in Reviewer, and then when those are signed, they will be redeemed by the judge who is assigned.
Excellent. Okay, great question. Okay, so are we ready to bring Lauren on and get into some questions about the actual, what it's like to participate and all of that kind of stuff?
As you're bringing Lauren on, Lucille asked in the chat, if not EPUB, would a PDF be all right? Yes, we get many submissions of PDFs, and honestly, sometimes they work easier for the transfer from reviewer to judge.
Okay, here's Lauren. Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
Hey, thanks so much. So I'm so excited to have Lauren Parvizi join us. So I'm gonna do, what everyone loves, which I'm gonna read her bio to her essentially. But just so everyone knows who Lauren is, so she's the author of Trust Me on This, forthcoming this April 8th, and then La Vie According to Rose, which is the winner of the 2024 Star Award for the debut category. She worked for more than a decade as a digital editor and content writer and earned an MFA from San Francisco State University. In addition to novel writing, she co-authors with her writing group a Substack called The Writing Group Chat, which I follow. And actually, I know several other members of that group as well. So it's always nice I feel like I'm meeting you one by one. And then she lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband and sons. So thank you, Lauren, for joining. Happy to turn over to you if there's anything you'd like to expand on your bio and maybe speak a little bit more about what you're currently working on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie and Ginger, for having me. I'm excited to be here and support the Star Award and share my experience. My bio kind of says it all. I did a lot of like digital online writing while I was getting my MFA. So it was kind of all happening in the background. And then was able to go freelance with all of that and really turn to novel writing in like 2020, actually. My book that's coming out, my sophomore novel, is called Trust Me on This, as you said, and it's coming out April 8th. It is what I describe as my sister road trip book, which is like very much the most simplistic nutshell version I can describe it as, but to give it a little bit more meat, it's the story of two very opposite sisters who are mostly estranged and are forced together on a West Coast road trip from LA to Seattle to see their dying father, who has something he has to tell them. What starts as this like ill-fated drive, reopening all these painful old wounds, turns into something that lets the sisters really see each other for who they are for the first time. But they're each keeping secrets, and when they finally make it to their dad, they have to sort of decide if their burgeoning sisterhood is strong enough to get them through the truth. It's has some similar themes to La Vie, but especially the family, the sisterhood, and all that. That's what I like to write about. But it's something new, and I'm really excited to get to share it with people.
Yeah, congratulations. Now this is probably now we're going to go back in time to last year. But could you tell us a little bit more about the novel you entered in the Star Contest that ultimately won the debut? And then also just kind of from there, can you even just tell us about kind of how did you find out about the contest, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I just want to say, like, this is the first time I'm talking about both books at the same time. So it's like an exercise in like going back to talking about La Vie According to Rose, but then also like thinking about my new book. So actually, this is a great opportunity for me. So I appreciate that. So I started writing La Vie According to Rose in 2018, but it didn't actually debut until July of 2023. I think I see it as a totally like kind of classic women's fiction novel in sort of the most narrow definition of women's fiction, which I'm glad actually isn't a narrowly defined genre, but I think if it were, it does fit in there. It's the story of Rose Zadeh, who is a 32-year-old serious people pleaser who is living in the shadow of her father, who passed away a decade ago, who was an Iranian immigrant and who valued hard work above all else, and really instilled in her the belief of like the responsible eldest sister. And so she still feels very beholden to her kind of needy single mother and her two younger sisters, and she's working in this dead-end Silicon Valley job. But then she gets this mandated basically work hiatus, and she decides she's going to go to Paris and change her life, because that's what people do, right? In the movies and books, that's what people do. But the magical Parisian fairy tale she expects is not what she gets. Instead, she's like confronted with real Paris, the city where actual people live in this day and age, and also what it means to be a solo traveler. And she's kind of swept up immediately with this charming, enigmatic American expat, and she has an encounter with her kind of like childhood friend who is very handsome now, but harboring this strange secret, and this older woman who is actually like a French self-help guru who is wise but very formidable, kind of takes her under her wing. And so she's having this adventure in Paris, but when she's confronted with this unexpected surprise from home, and it makes her realize that a change of scenery actually doesn't change you, because wherever you go, there you are. And I call it a story of self-discovery, but I think what I really see it as is a story of giving yourself permission. And that's why I wrote it, giving myself permission to be a novelist. And so writing a story of this young woman giving herself permission to live the life she wants. And I think that's what I hope readers take from it too, giving yourself permission, not necessarily to change your whole life, though by all means, but book the trip if you've been wanting to do it for a decade. And then, as I mentioned before, I really do see this as kind of like that fits into that women's fiction definition exactly. And when I think about, I've been part of the WFWA now for a very long time. I actually don't remember when I joined. It was a really long time ago, long before this book. I was starting to work on it. But what happened is, as I was working on this book, I was like really wanting even more intimate community. And I ended up meeting Hadley Leggett, who I know many people in the WFWA know, because she's been such an amazing force and volunteer, and she's just a wonderful person. And at the time, she was a finalist for the Rising Star. And I think watching her go through that and then getting to see her win, I met her in August, and I think she won in September. Getting to see her do that, it was really fun, and it put this on my radar. And I thought, okay, well, I know that in addition to the Rising Star, there's the Star Award, and so that could be something that I do. It just seems like there was a lot of excitement and energy around it.
And I'm curious then too, like, have you? I know this, we're here to talk about the Star Award, but like, have there been other contests? Do you were entering contests part of the plan? Like, I'm curious, like now, like how are they on your radar? How do they fit into your journey? Do they not? Do they?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've been thinking about that, and I know that there are definitely people who prioritize contests. I wouldn't say that I'm at that level. They're on, I mean, I'm kind of aware of them, but I haven't put them at the highest priority level. For me, I think contests are really about they're not necessarily going to sell books, right? But they're about visibility, and they're also about taking a chance on yourself and saying like, my book is good enough to win. And I think that's actually really important experience for an author, to put yourself out there and to be willing to say, like, to risk things. It's all about, that's what we do all the time, is risking rejection, right? But hoping that, we don't get rejected. And I, initially, Ginger, when you had sent me this question to mull over, I had been like, no, I didn't enter any other contest. But then I was like, after a few days, I was like, wait a minute, I did enter another contest. There is this contest that the American Library in Paris does each year for a book that represents French culture. And the woman who was running it had emailed me about it. And I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. They don't want me. And then I ignored her email. I'm embarrassed to say. She followed up again and was like, are you sure you don't want to participate? The deadline's coming. And ultimately, I decided that I would participate, although I had no like illusions about winning. I mean, the books winning are like these incredible stories about like, you know, history and how it relates to like the political landscape. It just, I could tell my book wasn't gonna win, which was fine because what it offered instead was that for anyone who participated, your book gets to be on display in the American Library in Paris. And I was just so excited about this book specifically because Paris was so important to me to be there, that it was absolutely worth entering the contest, which I think is another important thing about contests too. It's not always about winning, it's just about the participation itself sometimes.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, Lauren, because I think just like the query process, writers hang so much of their self-worth on the rejection or the acceptance, when that's not truly the worthy part. The worthy part is that you're doing the thing and just
Absolutely.
keep going, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Just a couple more like short little things for you. You know, just to kind of put other people's minds at ease, can you tell us about the experience of even entering your work for this award? Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, so I think actually, you know, when you ask the question of like how many other contests you've entered, I think that has been part of it for me, is like it feels like work, it feels like effort to enter into these contests. Certainly the one that I was just describing for the American Library was some work because I had to mail books to Paris, which is actually kind of annoying to have to mail things out of the country. But in this case, it was a breeze. It was absolutely a breeze, I have to say. Everything, like every spot that I had to fill in, you know, I think there was like the blurb and there was maybe a pitch, like a short pitch that I already had those things, you know, from writing the book and marketing the book. Those things already existed. It was just a simple copy and paste job really to enter all that information in. And then it was really simple to provide the digital copy. I went through Amazon and just provided gift copies that way, I believe, rather than like a PDF. But yeah, it was very simple. It was very seamless, and I think that it actually made me more motivated to do other contests because I was like, okay, well, I already have this information just sitting on my computer. You know, what's the worst that happens? You just waste 20 minutes of your time if you don't win. And again, it's not a waste. You're, to your point, Debbie, you're it's the journey, right?
Yeah, doing these things, thickening our skin, and building out our our what do they call them, our assets, our media assets and things, the things that we're sending out, the pieces of our whether it's our bio or a back cover blurb or whatever it is, short bio, long bio, all these kinds of things. By the time you've published your first novel, you have all of these pieces.
Mhm.
So definitely makes sense to use them in that way. Yeah. Ginger, I'm sorry, back to you.
Yeah, no. And I think, Lauren, just in closing, if there's anything else, I mean, I think you already spoke to this a little bit, but there's anything else you'd like to say for, to anyone who's considering submitting their work and maybe who are on the fence, is there anything you'd like to add maybe about this process or this journey?
I mean, I think I just would say what we're kind of talking about, which is like you can't win if you don't play, you know, and there's always a sense, I think, I've certainly felt this in the past of like, well, I'm not going to win anyways, so what's the point in doing it, you know? And don't reject yourself, I guess is important to always remember, whether you're querying or whether you're in a contest. It's worth trying, and even if you don't win, it actually is really fun to like wait for the updates along the way, and it can kind of put a little pep in your writing step. So I think there's every reason to do it, and like pretty much zero reasons not to do it, so it's worth doing.
Thank you.
I'm curious, I know this was a while ago that you were going through this, but do you have any, memories of like going through it and going, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I hadn't have done such and such, regrets
Mm.
of any kind?
I don't remember having any regrets, to be honest. I do remember feeling like I'm glad you guys are doing this now, because I remember feeling like I didn't exactly know how the contest worked at the time. And I didn't know who was judging the first round. I didn't know exactly when the judging was taking place and when so I was like, I should have kind of paid more attention to these things, or looked it up and watched something like this to try to understand. Because I definitely there were a few times where I was like, who is looking at this? Like, who did I just send these books to? Which isn't a regret, and it's not even a big negative, but it just would have kind of put my own mind at ease a little bit to have that information. So I think that's why I was actually excited when Ginger reached out to me about participating, because I was like, oh, this is exactly the hole that I was kind of seeking to be filled at that time.
That's awesome. I'm glad that that you thought that and that we're filling that gap now, because I know I've had a lot of people over the past 2 years as a judge. I've been a first round judge in the Star Award competition, who get very lost in the process, and a little overwhelmed maybe with what needs to be done. So we're really trying this year to give everybody the information they need ahead of time in multiple ways, from this discussion to our main website has a bunch of information. And then also here within the, or not here, but in the online community, we have a whole section for not only the Star Award information, but there's a link that tells you what exactly is women's fiction, because there's a lot of members here in WFWA who don't really write women's fiction. It may kind of fit in, but it's really more in another genre. But they stay here with us because we have so much great stuff to offer, and we have such a wonderful community. But to enter this contest, it does have to fall into that specific guideline. So knowing if your book even fits, is a big question that people have, and we have that information too. So thank you for helping us build out these building blocks for our contestants.
Yeah, of course. Happy to.
Okay, so Ginger, do we have anything else that we need to keep Lauren here for? Or do we want to let her pop out and we can talk maybe about a little bit on the judging side of it?
Definitely love to talk about that. Thank you so much, Lauren, for being here. It's lovely to actually put a face to a book.
Yes.
And just to hear your advice and your stories. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and then before I hop off, this is kind of dorky, but I thought people might want to see, because you mentioned the trophy, and this is what it looks like, and it's really cute because it has the star. So I just thought people might want to see that,
Oh, I
like,
love
it's
that.
real, and it has like a little heft to it. And as Ginger knows, mine kind of went on a little journey before it arrived to me, but it arrived to me. So I feel very
It made it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you. Okay, I changed her role to attendee, so I think that does that. Okay, awesome. So so that's that's the contestant side, and kind of what she went through and what her book was about. The other half of that is the judging side, and everybody that's here, maybe you're looking to also be a judge, or maybe your novel's not quite ready and you want to be a judge. I highly, highly recommend it, because as I tell everybody, it's to get to see what your book should look like when you get to that point. Helped, I know, me go, oh no, my book's not quite ready. I thought it was, but it's not quite there yet. And now I'm like, yeah, my book is ready. Now I know I can proceed because I feel like it's met the standard that we see among all of the contestants that come through the judging process. But Ginger, before we hop into the judging thing, I just was curious if you want to address the question that came across about the guidelines for women's fiction.
Yeah, definitely. And I also wanted to just say something too, where it's like, if you are unsure if your novel falls within women's fiction, and I'll definitely speak to what the definition is on our website in a second. And you would like to run it by the committee before you enter, because I know there is a fee associated. It is nice to know at least that your novel qualifies. You can send a little blurb and say, hey, I have a question, per the guidelines. is this women's fiction? And the committee can give you an answer before you enter the contest. I just wanted to say that because, again, if you aren't sure, but you are intrigued by entering, but you want to answer before you enter, that's what the committee is here for. So I just wanted to point that out. To the question about what are the guidelines for what qualifies. So I'm going to read this verbatim, and it's on the website. So how do I determine if my novel is women's fiction? Women's fiction is defined as a story where the emotional journey of the protagonist is the driving force of the story. The protagonist's journey must lead to a more fulfilled self. So essentially, when the committee is reviewing submissions, the novels need to have essentially an arc where your protagonist is growing over the course of the novel. This is also why we ask for some information up front. That way we don't have to go searching online, which I've done before, to learn a little bit more about your story without reading it. Because while I would love to read all these submissions, there's many right out the gate, and the same goes, I'm sure, for the committee. I do want to continue, though, just by saying women's fiction is a flexible genre that may include romance, or it may not. It could be contemporary or historical and have magical, mystery, thriller, suspense, or other elements. It's all about the driving force of the novel, which is that character arc, that's growth over time. Again, I know that still might leave people with a question, so reach out to us or reach out to the committee, get an answer before you take the leap. But please reach out if you're considering, because we'd love to have your novel. Another thing, you can enter if your book is traditionally published or self-published. I wanted to flag that because I think that's important just to know.
And then one more thing about qualifying as women's fiction for this contest.
Mm-hmm.
I think the protagonist, the main character, has to be of a certain age, don't they?
Yes, so typically we're looking for a protagonist who is an adult for at least 50% of the book. So
okay.
Also know that, and that's also been a challenge in the past, where like if you have a coming of age story, it really is a little bit about how much of the book are they actually of age.
Right.
Because we have had stories where, like, the person starts as a child, but they do spend the majority of the novel as at least an adult.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent. Raquel just put a question in there as well, and she's asking about copyright requirement that is specific to her situation. Obviously, maybe that's too specific for this conversation, but is there somebody that she could reach out to specifically for that?
Definitely. I mean, I would just email star@womensfictionwriters.org. And you can find the email as well on the website, and then again we'll have it following up. But yeah, please, Raquel, please do send your question. I also know that Janet, you asked a question about reviewer. There are steps provided when you would click the link to enter your novel. There are steps to help get you kind of linked up with reviewer and submitting your work. So
and I'm sure if anybody just runs into a brick wall and can't figure out how to do it, we've got lots of great tech people who can help you out. So just reach out to that STAR committee and they will point you in the right direction. So to kind of go back over to the call for judges.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Definitely. So we need as many judges as we have entries. So if we get 100, which is always my hope, as both the person who at this point is very invested in this award, as well as involved in programs, we need 100 people to then be the judges. We kind of recruit judges in a variety of ways. As many of you have seen, if you've been on Facebook, if you've been on our Facebook group, if you've been on our newsletter, the call for judges is already out there. And we reach back out to people who have judged in the past to say, hey, would you like to, take part this year? The only hitch there is if you are submitting your work, you cannot be a judge. So for some people, that is a good reason they can't judge this year. So I'm happy for them, but it also means we have to find, some new people or other people to fill those slots. I think it's also just important to note that to be a judge for the Star Award first round, you just need to be a reader of women's fiction. you don't need to have specific credentials. Really, it's just you are a reader of women's fiction and you are interested in kind of, it's a really neat way to give back. You're reading published novels by women's fiction authors who, you know, are throwing their hat in the ring. And so it's, you get a chance to, you know, read a novel with both for fun and also with the idea that you're going to score it at the end. And so I think, to Debbie's point, there are also resources that help kind of lay out. I can't speak more highly of the online community and these various numbers of there are critique toolboxes. There's a 2025, we might have to update that, star judges page to help kind of get people up to date and feel equipped, maybe. I think that's probably the word to dive in and be a judge for this contest. But there is no barrier. And also, you don't have to be a member of WFWA to be a judge. And we put that out there also just because it's a nice way to both, sometimes, to be perfectly honest, we need some additional folks. And it's also, again, we're looking for readers of women's fiction. So if you know someone who maybe isn't a part of WFWA yet, but loves to read, might be interested, please feel free to send them. There's a link that will be sent after, or to the Star Award account that we will share. But we are always more than happy to work with our judges. It's, you know, a little bit of a process. Every once in a while, if people run into a snag, that's what the committee's there for. You know, if you can't open a link, that's what the committee's there for. So, you know, it's really our job on the back end to make sure that, you know, any hiccups we can address, because we want the authors to have their books read by 3 judges, and then we also want the judges to have a good experience.
Yeah, to that point, Ginger, when you said have the author's book read by 3 people, so if you're doing the math, so that means every judge reads 3 novels.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so every judge reads 3 novels. Every year we have a couple who want to read more. I love that. That, you know, because every year we also have some folks who maybe something comes up. And so again, even if it's the end of the month or mid-February and you're like, well, I didn't throw my hat in the ring, but maybe they're still looking for judges, please submit. To be honest, like, we are always happy to like loop new judges in. So
a few more questions there.
well, I think most of them are answered.
Oh, Robin put she put that star at womensfictionwriter.org in there. So that's the email address for. And then the entry fee, Ghislaine wants to know what the entry fee is and the link to the page for all the details. So that link is something that you're going to find in multiple places, not here in this instance, but you'll find it in the newsletter, you'll find it on Facebook, you'll find it in on our website, you'll find it within the online community. It's going to be in the timeline of the replay of this video once it's posted. So that link is going to be all over the place, and you've got plenty of time to find that. So no worries there. And then Lucille, oh, she says she would happy to be judge in the future. This year she's submitting. Well, good luck, Lucille. Thank you for keeping us in mind next year, though. You know, you could be a judge for Rising Star. That's coming up.
Yeah. There's a question in here about how many entries do we get. 100 is the max. Typically, every year there will be a couple that are do not qualify for a variety of reasons. The copyright date is a different year. It is not deemed women's fiction, etc. So last year we had the final, like when we reviewed, after we reviewed submissions, we had, I think, 78 that moved forward to first round judging, out of, I think, 88 total, just to be transparent. Again, that's why if you have questions, if your novel is women's fiction, please reach out, and please double check your copyright dates. in your novels, just in case. And we do not pay judges. So this is a volunteer position, or this is a volunteer role within WFWA.
Okay, so we had an anonymous question. She wanted to know if Star Award at Women's Fiction Writers is correct. And actually, I think that works too.
Yeah, you can email that as well. That is also, yeah.
Okay, Lucille, we have it on record that you say you're going to be a Rising Star judge, so we'll look forward to seeing you there. Okay, anything else about the judges? When is the deadline for the call for judge? I know you said even after the deadline, you can still reach out because that stuff there, that need seems to always be there up until the very end, but there is a cutoff time, I think, right?
Yes, so basically, and this is actually helpful to go back to the general timeline. So like, if you're entering, what you need to know is February. The contest is open in February. Obviously, if it hits 100, it closes before the end of the month. So if you know you're going to enter, if you're ready to go, please do so at the beginning of the month. Just to be safe, right? But if you're judging and you're interested in judging, the entries close, the star committee gets to work reviewing everything. They upload the judges that we have. And by March 7th is the goal date to send out judging assignments and access to those novels. So if you are considering being a judge, the end of February is what I would say is the deadline. There will most likely be, maybe another call the beginning of March, seeing how things shake out. But February 28th, I think, is just the deadline across the board. So if you want to be a judge, please submit by then. If you want to submit your work, please definitely submit by then. Because February 12th, we actually opened the award to non-members. So the first half of February, it's only member accessible. The second half, non-members can enter. And then scores are due May 31st, which is important. So you have from March 7th to May 31st to read the novels and submit your scores.
Right. We had a question also in the thread about where the money goes. And do you know, I think I know the answer to that, but do you know, have you been on that side of the Ginger?
Sure. I think, to be perfectly honest, a lot of what the money that is made from a lot of the programming goes back into the programming. And so like the reviewer software required, like there's a fee associated every year, the awards, the etc. So these contests are not necessarily money-making opportunities on a regular basis for like beyond the contest itself. So they are self-funding the opportunity for writers.
Yeah, most of the stuff that we do, believe it or not, here in WFWA, we are a nonprofit organization. So most of the time our goal is a break even when we're trying to set up, whether it's workshops, retreats, conferences, whatever, we're just trying to break even. And as a nonprofit, we're not, we can't be hoarding cash from things like this. And I know that some of the money that we raise through various things like workshops and our auctions and stuff goes to our scholarship fund. We provide scholarships for members, to go to retreats and other things. So I hope that answers the question about where the money goes.
And then we also had a question about are there judges tiers? So yes, so the first round is the broader pool. The second round, so the 6 finalists who move forward will be judged by a group of librarians who have been working with WFWA for years. So they get either hard copies in that case, and a few of them get also go the Kindle route, but they are judged by librarians from across the US. I think we cover several states with our final round judges. And then,
the first round judges, though, no matter where you are in your writing journey, we're all on the same plane as far as the judging goes.
Yes, yeah, you don't have to be a published author again to be the first round judge. And the second round judge, the requirement is that they are librarians.
Right, right, right. Now, just to confirm, Raquel is asking if you're entering the Star Award, you can still be a Rising Star judge, though, correct?
Yes, yes. So Rising Star, and don't quote me because I'm newer to Rising Star than I am the Star Award. But that has the requirements for that to be a judge for that are a bit different. So if I'm not mistaken, it's you are a published author, I think an editor, or there is another option. I think Hadley actually was on here, and she was actually part of the Rising Star. But please don't quote me on that. I think that is definitely please refer to the website. I will take this opportunity though to put it out there that if you've been reading the weekly newsletter, we're actually looking for a new co-chair of the Rising Star Award. So if you are interested in being part of kind of the volunteer side that brings these opportunities to life, please check that out. Submit a interest form. It's a great way to be involved.
It's a great way to be involved because it's a seasonal thing. It's not like you're committing for,
Yes.
you know, an everyday type thing. It's a seasonal
Yes.
thing. And just volunteering in general for any of you attending who have not volunteered with WFWA. I've been a volunteer for 2 years, and I can tell you that I can't even, you know, it's like that commercial about, you know, priceless, right? All of the things that I have learned, the acquaintances I've made, the connections I've made, the opportunities that have come about, and my resume is everything is just it's been one reward after another being a volunteer. So if you have some time to spare, we'd love to fill it for you.
That's real. And to echo that, I think I've also I started with Star because I also knew it wasn't necessarily all year, all the time. I'm in a different role now, but I definitely recommend at least taking a look because there are different ways to plug in that aren't necessarily, you know, a very, very intensive time commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of little jumps, little things that need to be done. It's all about the little things. Okay, awesome. So let me see. Do we have any other questions left in here? Have we addressed all those?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lucille said that was very informative. Thank you. Okay, you're so welcome. Thank you. And as I've mentioned a couple times, so a replay of this will be in the live events library in the office hours area in the online community. I always post a link in the newsletter. So next week in the newsletter, there will be a link to that replay. So you can go back, and along with that replay will be a timeline. So you can go back to a specific area if there was something you missed and want to hear more about. Plus, we'll have various links to the website and the submission forms and things like that there. But bottom line is, if you have any questions, reach out to the STAR committee. That's going to get you pointed in the right direction. Anything else, Ginger, that I'm leaving out before I wrap this up and let people have their lunch hour back?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of ground, and I think again, I can't say it enough. You know, if you have a question, if you want to, you know, get involved, if you want to submit your work, but again, need a response from somebody. There is a committee, Robin, Ann, and Susan, who are involved this year and who are more than happy to help out. So it was lovely to be here today, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Ginger. I'm really glad that we got to do this, and the timing couldn't be better. Before I let everybody go, I just want to remind you that our next office hours is going to be on Thursday, February 27th. At 1 p.m. as always, Eastern time. And in that edition, I'm going to have Catherine Matthews, who popped in here earlier. You might have seen her, our VP of technology, because one of the things that's come up over the course of the year and a half that I've been working within the online community is writers in general, and rightly so, have a lot of concerns about security issues and with regards to the technology that we use in the online community, in the workshops, and things like that. People have questions about the difference between our website and the online community, and why do I have to have 2 sign-ins, and all of these kind of techie things that everybody wants to know about. So Catherine's going to join us and hopefully clear up maybe some either misconceptions or some fears that you have. We can put these things to rest. So we're going to talk about that.
And the final question, because I do want to say it out loud, we got a question that someone is Canadian, can they still apply?
Oh,
yes, we are an international organization. You can apply from anywhere. You do not need to be based in the US.
I did not see that question. Thank you so much for catching that. Yes, absolutely. We welcome everybody as a contestant. Okay, so I think that's it. We've covered everything, the replay, the next issue. Thank you so much, Ginger. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It was lovely to have everybody here. Sorry for the chat snafu. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.